What to do? Watch a movie. I watch so many a day. Let's see what the weather is like outside. I guess we're doing a video. Hey everyone, this is Jeff 101Bronson, and yeah, as I looked outside and it's well, snowing like there's no tomorrow. I mean, where was all this snow a couple of weeks ago when it was Christmas? We didn't have a white Christmas, and yeah. The only time of the year where you want snow with Christmas, you don't get it. A couple of weeks later, January, you're hit with it. Welcome to the Netherlands. Anyway, I'm reminded by this snow of one of my all-time favorite spaghetti westerns, namely The Great Silence, Il Grande Silenzio, which is a western, Italian western set exclusively in the snow. Of course, this is not the only movie in the snow that the current weather is reminding me of. It also reminds me of the best James Bond film, in my humble opinion, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Of course, that's also not the only one, there's more, but seeing as I am recording this the day after I did my Eurocrime spotlight section, video, where I sort of made a few recommendations on that genre, and as I clearly have nowhere else to go, I figure I might as well continue that trend and cover the two other Italian genres that I'm a really, really big fan of. And I think you can be as well after these videos. At least that's the plan. So I'm going to shoot 2 episodes now back to back. In this one I'm going to cover the spaghetti western genre. And in the next one I'm going to cover the Giallo subgenre of Italian filmmaking. Then I would have completed sort of the trifecta of my favorite Italian genres, Eurocrime, spaghetti western, and Giallo. So yeah, let's do that. But as we're doing spaghetti westerns today, I feel like something is missing. Something in my costume. I mean, I have the Italian flag on there representing Italy, of course, the country where these films, but I'm missing something for this particular episode. That's better. Yes, my Clint Eastwood inspired man with no name hat and poncho. Look, it's the hat it's almost a replica of the one that Clint wore. Obviously, this is meant to be a replica. It's not 100% accurate. Doesn't have the long tassels at the bottom, but it's close enough, right? And it was pretty cheap as well. Yes, I guess this is also a Westerns for Life episode, because this is the outfit that I wear in every one of my Westerns for Life podcast appearance that I'm doing with Dan's Man Cave, and Carlos, Eastwood for Life fans. So yeah, we're talking my favorite subgenre, without shadow of a doubt. I love the Eurocrimes, I love Giallos, I love blaxploitation cinema, I love sexploitation, a lot of those sort of subgenres, women in prison films. But spaghetti western is my favorite subgenre because I'm just a massive Western fan. So, for the newbies, I think newbies is a bit disrespectful, for the newer, curious fans that sort of want to dabble into this, and for people that literally have zero experience, I'm going to make my first few recommendations. I reckon most people will have seen the films from this particular director, because he's the most famous director of this genre. I'm talking about the films of Sergio Leone. Now, these should be your absolute starting point making your way into this genre. His first 2 films with Clint Eastwood, they really showed a lot of promise. By the third one, he perfected, what made a great Sergio Leone Western. In my opinion, his first two are great as well. His first two films, German release here, For a Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. Two amazing, absolutely fantastic spaghetti westerns, starring Clint Eastwood. Made a legend out of Clint Eastwood. These films, For a Few Dollars, Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. These should be your starting point, and then as this is sort of an unofficial trilogy of films, because Clint Eastwood, you know, had the same poncho and had the same sort of, you know, outfit and everything. Even though he plays three different characters, it's a loose trilogy. He still sort of maintained the same outfit, and this is the best film without shadow of doubt in the trilogy. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, co-starring Lee Van Cleef and Eli Wallach. Yeah, I reckon most of you will have seen these three legendary spaghetti westerns, and they should be your absolute starting point. I mean, it's gotta be. It just has to be. I mean, I can imagine not too many people will get into the genre by watching Bad Man's River, which is one of the most terrible spaghetti westerns I've ever seen. But we're not here to talk about terrible spaghetti westerns. We're celebrating the greats. And yeah, after that amazing, groundbreaking trilogy, Sergio Leone was actually done with westerns, and for years he was trying to set up his epic gangster crime epic entitled Once Upon a Time in America. Now, when he sort of arrived in America pitching this, they said, "Are you crazy? We want another western because you are amazing in westerns with western filmmaking." So reluctantly, Sergio Leone actually ended up making his absolute masterpiece for me in 1968, Once Upon a Time in the West. And this sort of started a unofficial trilogy once again with Once Upon a Time in the West. His next film, Docu-Sucker, which was known as Once Upon a Time the Revolution, and then of course Once Upon a Time in America. But these are his final two spaghetti westerns, even though this one is more of a revolutionary Mexican sort of western. Still nonetheless, but Once Upon a Time in the West especially. If you've seen Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you have not seen this, you are definitely missing out, okay? You are missing out in the big way, because for my money, this may well be the very best film ever made. It's not my favorite film of all time, but it's my second favorite film of all time. But yeah, it's a fine film. And then I do also recommend to watch Docu-Soccer, which is known also, like I said, as Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, and also known as A Fistful of Dynamite. Yeah, they were trying to cash in, I guess. So yeah, after you've watched the Sergio Leone classics, and all, you know, 5 of his westerns are amazing. He's also produced a few westerns that he didn't direct, but some people say he might have directed a scene or there. But his main filmography right there, it's it's amazing. After you watch those and you're like, hey, I kind of like Lee Van Cleef, you know, Angel Eyes and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Mortimer and A Few Dollars More. I want to see some more Lee Van Cleef. Yeah, Lee Van Cleef has done tons of spaghetti westerns. He's done some of the most terrible ones for me, but he's also done some of the best ones, obviously. And if you, I recommend 3 Lee Van Cleef films to check out after you come out of the Dollars trilogy or the Sergio Leone films. This one by Sergio Solima, The Big Gundown from 1966, the same year as The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Lee Van Cleef appeared in this masterpiece spaghetti western. Fantastic film, also with Thomas Millian. The Big Gundown would be my recommendation after you come off the Dollars trilogy. You want to see more Lee Van Cleef. If you like that, I recommend Day of Anger, which has Lee Van Cleef and Giuliano Gemma, who was another huge popular actor in spaghetti westerns. He's done like 10, 15, whatever. He's done a lot of spaghetti westerns. Day of Anger, another great soundtrack. I should add, The Big Gundown has a Morricone soundtrack, which should be even more of a pull for you if you like the Sergio Leone films. Similar with this film, this is probably my favorite of Lee Van Cleef's films that he did outside of the Dollar trilogy. Hence why I got the poster for it there, which comes from this little German set. Death Rides a Horse. This is actually, I prefer this slightly to The Big Gundown for me personally. Death Rides a Horse is actually my favorite Lee Van Cleef western, you know, separate from the Dollars trilogy for me personally, I would say. By Giulio Petroni, again, Ennio Morricone score and a fantastic one. Tarantino actually recycled some bits of the soundtrack for Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. So yeah, there you go. If you need to satisfy a Lee Van Cleef kick, those are the films right there. Okay. After Sergio Leone, there's another great Sergio. Well, there's three, but this is the second Sergio, as he's called, or the other Sergio. If you like Sergio Leone, you want more. After you got your Lee Van Cleef kick satisfied, you're like, oh, I want more. Sergio Corbucci, the second best director of Italian westerns in the whole wide world. As Al Pacino lovingly referred to him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino loves Sergio Corbucci. What is the most famous Sergio Corbucci film, and definitely should be your first Corbucci film? Django! Yeah, forget about Django Unchained, even though that's a great film. The original 1966 Sergio Corbucci directed, Franco Nero starring Django. Fantastic spaghetti western. It is one of the greatest westerns in that subgenre, and it made a star of Franco Nero. Yeah, fantastic film. Absolutely recommend Django as your first Sergio Corbucci film. If you like that, here's another one that Tarantino pulled some influence from for multiple films. The Mercenary from 1968. The soundtrack of this was featured in Kill Bill. You can see the poster of this movie in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Django Unchained paid homage to this film. Franco Nero once again, Jack Palance and Tony Mussanti in a great revolutionary Zapata western. This is where Sergio Corbucci really went the most Sergio Leone that he ever did. I mean, he always sort of did films differently from Leone. Leone had, you know, big epic scale, grandeur, you know, big epic shots and whatever. And Corbucci sort of tried not to go there, but with The Mercenary and a lot of scenes, for those who've seen the film, and one scene in particular, that's about as Leone as you're going to get. So if you want to see Corbucci doing, you know, sort of his version of a Leone western in a way, Il Mercenario, The Mercenary. And then, in my opinion, those two films are amazing, but for me, the undisputed Sergio Corbucci masterpiece, and as I'm looking outside, I'm reminded of it even more. Again, Il Grande Silencio, The Great Silence, Jean-Louis Trintignant, Klaus Kinski, Vanessa McGee. Again, one of my all-time favorite Ennio Morricone scores. This is one of his best for me. This is I have the soundtrack to this. It's haunting. It's gloomy. It's just chef's kiss, as always with Morricone. But yeah, The Great Silence. This one, and if you can, I recommend going into it as fresh as possible because of its sort of twist ending, which I'm not going to give away. But it's a fantastic film that everybody should check out. So yeah, Corbucci trilogy for me. Well, it's not a trilogy, but a trilogy of films you should check out that I recommend to watch, sort of almost back to back, I guess. It's yeah, Django, The Mercenary, and The Great Silence. These three films I shoot at are also my top three Corbucci films, with this being number one, Django being number two, and The Mercenary being number three for me. But all three of these films I can watch at any time. So, if you have seen Django and you absolutely love Django, and you type in Django, you might get like 200 different films called Django. There's a lot of Django versions, most famously, of course, Tarantino's own Django Unchained. See, the thing was, Django was so popular in Italy, you know, in particular in Italy, it was popular over the world, but that sort of, pretty much almost every other spaghetti western, they tried to work in Django in there somewhere. Some unofficial Django ripoffs and sequels. And in Germany in particular, every film that Franco Nero did in Germany, well, every film that was released in Germany, they were retitled Django, even if they weren't westerns. Yeah, Franco Nero did a shark hunting film. It's called Django the Shark Hunter or something like that. You know, he did a Eurocrime film. It's called Django and the Mafia or whatever, you know. That's how popular Django especially was in Germany, and especially with Franco Nero. However, there's one sort of unofficial or quasi-official, I guess, Django sequel that I think is the best. Didn't have Franco Nero returning, but they got the next best thing. Terence Hill in Django Prepare a Coffin. This is actually a quasi-authorized, almost official sequel to Corbucci's Django, even though there's still continuity errors if you watch him, if you watch it after Django. But this is about as, for me, in terms of the tone and stuff, this is about as close as they ever got with these Django rip-offs and whatever to capturing that original vibe. This is a great spaghetti western. They got Terence Hill because he looks so damn much like Franco Nero. They couldn't get Franco Nero, so they hired one of the, just went out for a lookalike basically, and they wanted to hire somebody who really, really looked like him, and that's how sort of Terence Hill's career in these spaghetti westerns started. As he started as a lookalike for Franco Nero. So yeah, Django Prepare a Coffin. If you're looking for a Django film, you have no idea what is a good Django film, what isn't. Trust me, this one is great score. I love Django Prepare a Coffin. Now I have two more other recommendations before I sort of move on to the last couple of ones. These are just some other ones to throw in between. This is sort of 101Bronson recommends some really underrated ones, I guess. This is one, it's really become one of my favorites over the years. Cemetery Without Crosses. It's more of a French film. It's more of a French influence in this one rather than Italian, because the star of this film, Robert Hussein, was French, and he also directed the film. Sergio Leone apparently had a hand with this film. He visited the set and apparently directed the dinner scene in the film. Which, if you watch it, is pretty Leone-esque, so there could be some truth to it. But Cemetery Without Cross is very, very underrated. This is one I highly recommend. I recommend this as a double pairing, sort of, with The Great Silence. I'm not gonna say why or what, because I will spoil some parts of the films. But Cemetery Without Crosses, just as a random recommendation. And then if you have liked the sort of Sergio Leone docu-soccer film, and you liked Corbucci's Mercenary, this is probably the best of the Zapata westerns, or one of the best. It comes damn close. This is A Bullet for the President, which is also known as El Chuncho. Kill Amigo is the German title, starring From the Dollars films, from Fistful of Dollars and Few Dollars More, John Maria Volante, and great genre actor Klaus Kinski in this one as well. Fantastic, and Lou Costello, who's also been in a few spaghetti westerns, but fantastic one, this one. Highly recommend Bullet for the General. This is one of the greatest, and especially of the Mexican revolutionary political sort of films. It's top 3 at least, right next to the Mercenary and docu-soccer, but it's up there. It's really up there. So those are just some of the spaghetti westerns I recommend. Now to sort of, as this is also a sort of history and sort of, run through the genre. By the early 70s, the late 60s, early 70s, the spaghetti western sort of lost its steam, and then they went into the comedy genre. I talked about this if you watch my Eurocrime episode. That's sort of how the Italians ran. They had they were very fat oriented. They had a genre that they had success in, and they just cranked out film after film after film on a conveyor belt almost, until it ran out of steam, and they tried some desperate measures to save the genre. Usually this would resort to the films in the genres becoming more comedy oriented, spaghetti western comedies. I'm not a fan of comedies, of the Italian comedies. I'm not a fan of the Euro comedies. I'm not a fan of the spy comedies that they did. I'm not a fan of the spaghetti western comedies. I'm not a fan of the sex comedies. I just, I don't know, for some reason, they always go slapstick. It's just always a bit too much for me. However, usually they will do one or two or a little handful of films at the very dying breath of the genre to sort of have a last stamp on it. And usually these turn out to be some really good ones. Now, what's frequently recommended in the spaghetti western genre is this little film by Enzo G. Castellari, Chioma, with, again, Franco Nero. This is from 1976, really one of the last great spaghetti westerns from when the genre was really on its last legs. Cover aside, because they really make it look like Django is returning, and with the machine gun, this cover is very, very misleading, very much mismarketing. But this is a very gloomy sort of whatever the word is. sort of western where it's very dreamlike, a lot of slow motion, you know, Sam Peckinpah inspired violence. Um, it's a good film. I really as some of the last films in the genre to watch. Kiyoma's definitely up there. But now I have to mention this because otherwise, if people will watch it after this, and they will come back here, they will say, "Why didn't you warn me for the god awful soundtrack?" Yes. Now you picture your best soundtracks of the spaghetti westerns, your Ennio Morricone, right? Your Bruno Nicolai, your Luis Bacalov. For Kiyoma, you had the De Angelis brothers, Maurizio and Guido De Angelis. And the soundtrack is absolute dog shit. It's absolute dog shit. I hate the Kiyoma soundtrack. That's the worst part of that film, and also this one I'm going to talk about, even though with this one it was less annoying for me, to be fair. This is another one from 1977 with Eurocrime star Maurizio Merli. Also because he was a Franco Nero lookalike as well. It's sort of, you always try to find somebody that looks like Franco Nero, and well, yeah, he did a spaghetti western because Franco Nero just did a spaghetti western as well. In the late stage of that genre. But this is Manaja, A Man Called Blade. Absolutely fantastic film as well. With the same soundtrack sort of as this one. Also the De Angelis brothers. But what differentiates the soundtrack is on this one you had a very annoying female voice. You know, it was even more terrible than what I'm doing there. But and this one, it's only a man who sounds a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's like, "Now you're standing alone." That's pretty much sort of folk singer. The soundtrack to both of these are really terrible, especially if you compare them to other greats of the genre. However, soundtrack aside, these two films, and there's also a film called California with Giuliano Gemma, one of the last ones. And For the Apocalypse, directed by Lucio Fulci with Fabio Testi. That's a great film as well. But these two in particular, as sort of the late genre entries, highly recommended. Some great, very violent, especially Manaja. It has some great axe throwing kills, which I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy seeing. And this is directed, by the way, by Sergio Martino. Yeah, another Sergio, who is more famous for the subject that we're going to talk about in the next video, Giallos, or Gialli, as the purists will correct me, I'm sure. But yeah, those are my spaghetti western recommendations. There are more. I mean, I'm sort of a bit of a connoisseur in some ways. I'm not going to call myself an expert because I don't think anybody can really be an expert on these because there's just so many movies and there's so many unreleased ones, so many rare ones. But I'm definitely a connoisseur into this particular genre, spaghetti westerns. I've seen about 130, 140 spaghetti westerns at this point. And that's just scratching the surface because there's like 500, 600, 700 made. I still have a lot to watch. But I'm certainly really getting into it and sort of know where the cheaper ones are, where the better ones are and stuff. And there's more to recommend. I could probably do an hour-long video on spaghetti westerns, but I don't want to keep you guys bored for too long. But yeah, if you just watch some of these films, especially the Sergio Leones, the Sergio Corbucci's, pretty much any film with Lee Van Cleef that isn't Bad Man's River or Captain Apache, whatever the film was called. If you watch Lee Van Cleef's 60s spaghetti westerns, you'll find with the Sabata films as well. Those are some good ones as well, the Sabata films. And there's just so many much more films to recommend, to be honest. But yeah, Bullet for the General. Just gonna do a quick recap. Why not? Manaja, Kiyoma, late entries. You know, mid to late 70s. Cemetery Without Crosses, Bullet for the General. Fantastic films. The best unofficial Django sequel or quasi-official, whatever it's called, but the best Django sequel without Franco Nero. Django Prepare a Coffin. Lee Van Cleef, Death Rides a Horse, The Big Gun Down, Day of Anger. Sergio Corbucci's original 1966 Django, The Mercenary, The Great Silence. It's still snowing, by the way. I think there's gonna be like fucking 10 inches of snow by the time this is done, really. It's, man, wow. Anyway, and then, of course, yeah, Sergio Leone, Fistful of Dollars, Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, and Duck You Sucker. There you guys have it, my little spaghetti western starter's guide, right? My sort of guide, the guide that I lay out for people that sort of want to try to get into this. So yeah, there you guys have it. Adios for this one, and we'll see you in the next episode where we're going to be tackling some murder mysteries. Giallos. Gialli, as the Pures again will correct me, but I will see you in that next episode. Take care, guys.